JD, are you a happy boy?
I love it. Still love it.
See, we take the banner down, Alexa appears.
Like magic.
Right? And now that we're all even squared, I'm tempted not to let Hank in because he'll just throw it around.
Just to maintain symmetry.
Right.
Not to get his own browser.
Well, in all reality, oh, here comes this.
Here comes Hank.
Yeah.
Party's over.
Lost our
Ah.
You had high hopes I wouldn't show up.
Gonna have to figure out how to do the Brady Bunch circle on this at some point. All right. Well,
Just skip the theme. Skip the theme.
Skip the theme. Since we are getting started, anybody that is watching and joining in, feel free to type in questions. We're going to answer you live. This is where you get to nitpick or pick our brains, maybe even nitpick if you want.
At your own risk.
Right. Any questions you might have for us in regards to the different styles of reading and what what the reader or healer may think on. Oh, I thought we lost Hank.
Bye, Maria.
About what we do, how we situations. This is the time where you get to ask us anything you want. Without worrying about taking up our time in the store. So we'll bring Maria back in.
Okay.
Welcome back.
It sounded like you got flipped.
Thanks.
All right, everybody made it home safely because of the weather that we have out there.
I just discovered that one of my windshield wipers actually doesn't quite scrape the windshield like it should. That was a fun ride home. Kind of doing the fun bob, like I can see road through here. Can't. Oh god. So that's fun.
Hopefully the driver's side was the side that worked the best, and you weren't having to look through the passenger side.
No.
Put your head out the window.
Yeah, basically, I'm kind of there.
Come on, you're from Cleveland when you need to get somewhere 5 minutes before you need to be there, and you only scrape this little tiny square drive like this. We've all done it.
It'll be false by the time I hit the main road.
Or your windshield isn't completely like defogged out, and you're going through sun glare on the fog.
I had that happen on my glasses at the store the other day. Walked right into a display. I was all fogged up.
God. That reminds me. I got to get out the frickin' Barbasol because I heard somewhere that's supposed to work.
I heard that messes up your glasses long term.
Melissa's over there shaking her head real hard. You already tried it?
I tried it.
I did hear there was some stuff made for like racquetball or something for goggles. It's supposed
Anti-fog?
to be anti-fog, yeah.
Yeah, people use it for their welding mask and things like that. Yeah, do it. Put it on your bathroom mirror.
Back in more flexible days, we used to always have like some defogging solution. We were out hunting, what have you. Now you wasn't all that wonderfully effective then, but can't find it now.
I find that your typical anti-fog spray at the eyeglass counter in Walmart does the better job of everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you just have to reapply it, every so often, but it does better than all of those. Here, put shaving cream on there. It doesn't work.
There you go. Notice all the four eyes are paying attention, including the one who's taking notes.
Right. So far we have quiet audience. Feel free to ask us questions. Right next to me is Hank. Hank is a healer, noisemaker, sometimes reader when messages come through in healing work. Next to him is Elias. Elias is a really cool combination of tarot and runes together. So if you have questions about how that might work. Joan is leader of Shenanigans Divination Meetup on Tuesdays of the month. reads tarot in Lenormand. We have Maria, who's pranic healer, shamanic healer, Reiki healer, certified hypnotherapist. I'm running out of room to say all of your
Yeah, you're gonna need a second business card for her.
right. Keep looking at all of her initials.
Have it just wrap around to the front, to the back.
Right, and it keeps going.
That's funny.
An origami business card that just keeps unwrapping. Certifications.
That'd be cute.
Alexa, who does the really fun and getting to be as popular as I hoped it was going to be. Tarot readings and relationship readings, where you literally get to throw a handful of dicks at a mat.
Yep.
If you have questions about that, now's your time. And we have JD, who does spirit drawings, which was a fun thing today.
Yeah, you were busy today, JD.
I was.
As I was explaining the drawing to one person, there'd be somebody else over off to the side overhearing, and I'd see the eyebrow go up and the ear twerk, and I'm like, come here. I only have to explain this once.
Thank you.
Hi, Rhonda. Hey, Laura. Eventually, we're going to get Laura back on with us. She's one of our readers as well. She just doesn't like being on camera. I'm going to have to, ambush her one of these times, I think. Just break that ice. So, yeah, feel free to ask us questions, guys. We've got some unique readers and healers. This is time to pick our brains. I'm just the leader of the circus.
Yeah. Speaking of circus, ask questions. Otherwise, we're just a bunch of monkeys running around trying to
We'll
figure
entertain ourselves now.
out entertainment.
So today I got banished over to the side with
Banished.
Hank and JD. I did. I walked in and Joan's like, banish her. It's like,
Okay, maybe wrong word, but it's the one that came out.
so. And Melissa has always given Hank grief about making too much noise. He's like, I'm sure it can't be that bad. In the middle of one of my readings, and from the other side of the wall, I just hear the reverberating woo, woo, woo.
Didgeridoo.
No,
Like
no
hot.
dish.
It's loud in here.
Hey,
Cool.
wait a minute. Don't diss that. I needed that.
It was great ambient noise because the other client didn't know what it was either. It's like, oh, this is just weird, spooky noise. That's right. It's part of the reading.
I don't think people understand until you see Hank's office just how many noisemakers he has.
I have a lot.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A wall full of tuning forks, a room full of bowls, more tuning forks. Do you still have more forks in the room with the bowls too?
Yes, a few, maybe.
Okay.
And if they were all stuck at the same time, the universe would implode.
It's true.
Well, you just need a kazoo. I don't think you have a kazoo yet.
I do have a kazoo, actually.
Oh, damn.
And I have a harmonica.
Oh man, what frequency does the kazoo work at?
Whatever noise you make, because it's based on your voice.
What about a cowbell? Hank, do you have a cowbell?
I do have a cowbell, actually, but it's at home. I have it here somewhere, actually. If I
What
were
about
to-
you have a slide whistle?
When you,
I have a sliding didgeridoo, though, that's tunable.
Not quite
Hank,
the
when are you
same.
going to do a Metallica cover album with tuning forks?
No, I don't know if that would work out well.
Okay, fine, corn, and use the big bowl for the bass.
Right.
Get into that.
I might actually help you play that one then.
More
Yeah, so
cowbell.
Hank's office had the sound going on, it had the artwork going on, it had the penises being thrown.
See, I told you, it was all the cool kids. They were on my side.
It was a cool place to be.
Right. Laura says, more cowbell. We just need a Christopher Walken lookalike to stand by your office and forks and the bells. I do believe Sandra asks if you have a conch shell, and he does have at least one. Because unfortunately, I've been in the room when you've blown it. And I'm like, ugh.
And for all those just joining us, she's talking about blowing the conch shell. Just so-
There's at least three people. There's at least three people who are watching us going, oh, is that what they're calling it now?
Oh. Yeah, it's what us millennials are calling it. Yeah. Oh my God.
Now, obviously, Alexa, you didn't find it distracting to have.
No, not at all. It's actually to loop back around and finish that final thought. It was actually kind of cool, Hank, because I'd never actually been in proximity of you when you've actually done that work. I was wondering, because I could overhear through the wall some of the stuff that you were doing, but what kind of stuff do you typically do when a client comes to see you?
Well, every situation's different, but typically I like to start with a few energy pulls, just so as they start to dissipate stuff, it has somewhere to go. And then I'll call in all the entities I work with, as well as their guides, angels, teachers, the spirit of their place of emergence. In our tradition, we believe that the blueprint for the perfect you is held outside of this reality by the masculine and feminine nature spirit of the place that you were born. Because you couldn't have it if you were to descend into matter. So you get born, and then you can get re-imprinted with it and ascend back up. And then really then it just is intuitive which things to make noise with and create a different possibility for them.
Nice.
That's why usually if somebody's coming in and asking about Hank and what he does, if he's standing near me and I'm like, explain yourself.
What do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, right.
See, that's why it's hard. Everybody's different because literally everyone's in a different spot. And sometimes I get really crazy and get all on phenomena. And other times I just do a light energy work and I barely make any noise at all. I know it's hard to believe, Melissa, but there are some sessions that I don't make any noise at all.
I like that. I like Shanamana.
Nah, 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 exactly. And now everybody's going to hate me because they got the Shanamana song stuck in their head.
Now you just need to go around singing that, like pinging the little forks for like the background music as you're walking around the store on Thursdays.
That will be my first music video. Will be to that song, playing bowls and forks, little cowbell. We can get all the readers in there playing
Or
instrument too.
cowbell.
Don't forget the triangle, because there's always that guy that breaks out with the triangle. And...
We got the triangle, and I have crystal singing pyramids, so those would be fun too.
Oh, can I play the spoons? I'm pretty good at that.
Sure.
Washboard. Who's got the washboard?
I got the bottle.
Doug.
I don't know. Them bowls and that gong were putting some real nice vibrations.
I'm glad that we have a thick enough firewall between the store and the software.
Barely. It didn't help with the dish. You could still hear the dish through the wall when I use it, can't you?
Sometimes in some of the lower bowls, like when you would do the concerts pre-COVID, as I would be leaving and you would have been starting, like I could kind of, like if I was over by where the bathrooms are, I could still like hear it. And I'm like, that's why it happens.
Yeah. And I think JD can attest to it. Even in the office, which is on the opposite side of the building as my office, like you can still hear it back there too when those big ones are going. At least Ryan would always not complain about it, but it was usually well timed with one of his clients. I would use that big bowl, and his client would feel it in the back when they were on the table getting a session from him.
Oh, just think what it would do for the customers if he was in the room over there and he got the right tones going while they're over there just kind of investigating the crystals that all start vibrating in sympathy.
Well, as long as the glass doesn't break and things don't, vibrate off the shelf.
Take a jump off.
Right.
And that could happen.
That's why you're on the other side of the wall.
I know.
Wow. Okay, guys, feel free to ask us questions about any sort of readings that any of the readers do, how they do some of the healings like Maria or Hank, how JD comes up with his artwork. Feel free to ask us questions. It's a really quiet night. I'm like blank on how to pull some questions out of you.
Well, we can ask JD how he felt, because JD, he thought he was going to be my first dude, but I actually had another guy this morning. So JD was my second male guinea pig to throw dicks. JD threw little dicks. It was great. He did so good.
Not sure how that sounds.
Excuse me, that calls for another.
It was good. It was real. I thought it was really good.
Wasn't too intimidating.
You kind of gave me a disclaimer, and when we went at it, it was fine. Like I didn't think it was anything that was too intense. Yeah, it hit on some important things.
Do tell.
Ringing endorsement.
I'm trying. No, yeah. Well, it's kind of hard. it's kind of hard to like go into it when I'm still processing it myself. You know what I mean? So,
well, I guess as far as like being a man goes, 'cause I more statistically I'll read for women. And up until today, I hadn't had any guys want to go throw the little gemstone dicks for me. And I guess I kind of worried that it was intimidating for men to think about the fact that there's phallic symbols afoot that they got to interact with.
it was really irrelevant. Like it didn't feel like it didn't feel relevant. So I mean, I get it. Some people definitely, some guys would definitely have an issue with that, but they're stones.
Yeah, well, the question on that really comes down to, without breaching the confidentiality of a read or anything, I mean, she did a reading. She used little dicks to do it. You're on the receiving end. Is it going where it's supposed to? Is it providing the insight? Is it doing what it's supposed to do? Pardon my hand to do that. I just think that it's interesting that with all of the wonderful and varied different imageries that we end up looking at with cards and stuff, you happen to just read the imagery of dicks. Gilroy.
Well, I mean, it was such a bizarre thing to start doing because I just kind of began dabbling in like throwing bones and stuff like that. And right before the world shut down in 2020, Melissa and I were talking about doing something for May Day, and she'd just gotten the shipment in of the cute little gemstone penises. And they were adorable, and she had a whole jar, and they were lovely. And then everyone bought them because nobody knew why they were buying them, but they all bought them. But we were originally going to do like a big May Day like fertility reading for people that were interested as part of the pagan calendar, but COVID
sucked all the fun out of that.
It sucked a lot of fun out of a lot.
Yeah. Rhonda is asking, how long is a session with Hank, and what is the cost?
Well, depends how long of a session you like. The shortest one I do are like astrology empowerments that I've kind of designed for every month. So I just did the Great Conjunction, and those are like a little 15-minute thing just based on the planets and using tuning forks to help acclimate to those energies. And then the next would be 30 minutes, which is $60, and then it's $100 for an hour, or $100 an hour after that if you wanted to go for a longer session. But usually a 90-minute session is really good for a first-time session, and then after that, if you need any power-ups, if you want to call it that, like a half hour is enough. But it's nice to have a little bit longer with the first-time client if you can.
Kind of helps break the ice and kind of get in there.
And I like to mix modalities. I love starting with a few access bars because it helps to start eliminate all the points of view considerations that hold people in limitation, and then doing the shamanic work and the sound work after that. It's like a really good combination of tools in most cases. But once I start, you never know. It could go any direction after that.
All right. So feel free with the questions and comments. This isn't really a session to get free readings, so just keep that in mind. This is meant for picking our brains on how we do, what we do, and why we enjoy doing it, or why we would prefer one way of reading or healing over another. Sue had a question, and it's too long to really put up on the screen, but needless to say, she was out in the metro parks and everything went quiet and felt like they need to leave. She was asking if we have any ideas what that could be, and I'm gonna say there was probably some sort of predator coming near around, and that's why nature goes quiet, because they don't want to be eaten. It's not always a spirit thing.
Right. Well, our fur children are very sensitive, and they can be the first indicators of spirits being in your home. Being out in nature, you're obviously exposed to a little bit more, just like Melissa said. I agree with you. Your first instinct is it felt like a predator to me. And hopefully everyone's safe. Keep watch over your fur child, because they will indicate to you many other things that are happening around the home.
That was actually, my mother actually has to do that now because during like my high school year, she started going fully deaf in the one ear and then partial in the other. And so for a while, she couldn't hear anything around the house. And it wasn't until I got older, she finally told me, like, hey, there's some things in the house. I just didn't want to spook you as a kid. She said that she would use our little gray cat as like her barometer, because she would like think she kind of heard or felt or stood something, and she'd kind of go look for the cat. And if the cat was out cold, like, it's good. That I didn't hear anything. That was But there were times that all of a sudden the cat would do the startle thing and kind of do the look around. And it was my mom's cue of, I better go. I didn't hear anything though. Hang on. What are you looking at? Like being in tune with your house animals like that is there's a lot of benefits to it.
Sometimes they're smarter than we are. Usually they're smarter than we are. Well,
They're certainly a lot more tuned in.
Let's see. So, favorite topic, since we've got quiet here again. What was it? Yesterday was the start of Joan's probably favorite topic of Mercury retrograde.
Joan, what does that mean?
Well, all right, class. Shenanigans. That's what it really means. The planets are wreaking havoc. No, retrograde. Thinking of the word retro, going backwards, looking back. Mercury is the planet of communication. So obviously we are going to experience some type of struggle of communication. It's only a struggle if you're not aware of it. But if you're prepared, just keep in mind that we all might need to work a little bit harder for us to have someone else understand us and understand what we need to say. So now is a perfect time to renegotiate, relook, review anything that you have going on in your life over the next 3 weeks. Doesn't mean don't sign contracts. It doesn't mean don't do anything and just stay home. I mean, other than COVID, but and then if no one will let you out. But it's more of just being aware and double checking yourself and making sure things are in order. We've got someone who is leaving and going on a trip over the next week. I know you double checked all of your plans and you're making sure things are in order, but it's also just going with the flow. You're staying with and knowing that if something goes wrong, you can always say it's Mercury retrograde. I'm kidding. It is. It's a lot of just reviewing and looking and making sure things are in order. I just mentioned this earlier today. For myself, who was born during a Mercury retrograde, if I can get the English out, I find it a little bit more lucky for me during this time. So some things might take a little bit longer, but I kind of enjoy it.
It's also a good time to tie up loose ends, reconcile things, redo things. Great time to rearrange furniture or go through old stuff because it's retrograde. It's backwards, or it's towards the past. Things like that. Catching up with old friends is a great one. I almost always hear from an old friend during a Mercury retrograde.
Mercury Gatorade.
What?
Mercury Gatorade.
So yeah, if it's someone you haven't talked to in a while, you're more likely to connect with them. Like they'll answer the phone or they'll be available. Just stupid things like that. Not that you can't do that any other time. It's just more conducive, especially if it's someone you haven't been able to get a hold of.
For sure.
Melissa's retrograde proof because she's always crossing her T's and dotting her I's.
She's like, whatever.
Yeah, I'm not a big retrograde believer.
Because you're immune.
I'm
Immune.
Mercury retrograde walks up to Melissa and she's like, I ain't got time for you. Stop.
No, sit your ass
Oh,
down.
no.
I have things to do. I mean, honestly, if you're double checking yourself and taking your time to be thorough and, you can do that all year round, regardless.
Well,
Not all of us operate that
why
way.
suddenly we should care so much about it for this particular month?
Well, because most people's nature is not to do that all the time. So that's why I say
a
you're
certain
immune.
artist.
I do. I kind of fly by the seat,
It's where all the fun happens.
right?
Now, see, and I know Hank would say, what would you say, Hank? You can say it for you.
Okay, I would say that anything in astrology has skilled and unskilled applications. Mercury retrograde or non-retrograde is the same. And the more conscious you are, the less astrology matters, but astrology never doesn't matter. So meaning that you don't have to be subject to an influence of the planets. In awareness, you can choose to cross the T's and dot the I's, and it doesn't have to be the end of the world. But at the same time, just because you're conscious about it, all your other people around you might not be. So it's really good to have an awareness of what other people might be going through, so you can be mindful about them too.
It also, like Joan said, though, it is a good excuse, and I don't mean excuse like at work when the computer's doing things it's not supposed to do or completely wigging out, and it's Mercury's in retrograde, so you kind of just release it with kind of a, instead of getting frustrated as much. At least I do.
No, but I have to wonder though, how many people have the point of view that Mercury retrograde, the world is ending, and because of their point of view about how bad Mercury retrograde is, their own consciousness creates opportunities for that to come into their awareness. So I think it's a double-edged sword. You got to be I think some people create their own demise with it too.
Right, I agree.
What also, I've used it before with certain friends that are a little bit more anxiety prone. Like if they have a particularly bad period and, it happens to be a retrograde of some kind, like getting them to remind them like, okay, hey, yeah, if Mercury retrograde affected you that badly, guess what? It's waning out. It's changing over. You can move on now. You're good. It kind of gives them that permission to put stuff to bed that they wouldn't necessarily want to. But if you tell them,
Right.
oh, but it's not retrograde anymore, you can put that on. They go, oh, okay, cool, and they chuck
Yeah,
it.
it puts it in a time frame they might not have concluded themselves. Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, so I got one better for you. Mercury retrograde happens, 3 times in a year? 3
Ish.
weeks at a time-ish. Yeah, no, but it is. It's 3 times a year. How is that any different than a full moon that happens once a month?
The moon's full all the time.
It depends on where you're looking at it.
It's full all the time.
Stop it. It's all in your perspective.
Science.
Yeah, but the ER doesn't give a shit if it's retrograde. The ER's like, ah, damn, moon's full, we're in for it, and they're typically right.
No, true.
I was thinking about this the other day though, during the full moon, and I wasn't thinking about the moon, but I went outside and it was just so damn bright out, late at night, and I was
Moon and
like,
Leo.
yeah, and thinking even like just mentally, some people might assign it to things getting wild because it does have that kind of wild snow day feel. Like you walk outside at midnight and it's just like almost daylight out. It's just a really cool feeling, and people probably got excited about it.
But it's a
Not
lot
as
easier to do.
excited.
Oops, sorry.
No,
See,
go
that's-
ahead.
right.
I was going to say it's a lot easier to do shenanigans if you can see a little bit what you're doing at night. So a lot more crazy things happen. But I used to work at a call center, and I got to the point where I would schedule off during the full moon because the people that called in were insane. I had a lady blow a whistle in my ears. I had a guy threatening to commit suicide. I had to call like police to go to their house. Like all this crazy stuff would happen on the full moon. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to skip those and not work on those days.
I did that part of last year. No one could understand why I was taking these random days. Well, it was because of the full moon, honestly.
Not so random if you know.
Well, that's right.
Yep. And if the moon affects water that much, how much percentage are we water? So is there an effect, like an actual possible scientific correlation? Maybe. I don't know if they've ever actually done research on that, but there's something to it for sure.
And I know, Maria, you're kind of more on my side of the fence. We'll have to ask where Elias falls in this. He's quiet over there.
Elias's astrology is not strong. I live my day every day, and just, I roll with it to the absolute best of my ability. I've got a goal. I just got to step by step head for it.
Mm-hmm.
So retrograde or not, what's going to happen? I got to go through it. That's the way I look at it.
Good orderly direction, God.
What about you, Maria?
No pressure.
Yeah, what's your take on the whole retrograde thing?
Not in it. Not in it.
What about the full moon?
The full moon is I do it for ritual, but the moon is always full, just like the sun is always up. We cannot see it depending on the phase of the earth that we're in, but it's always there.
And the moon's more common in the everyday psyche anyway. I will research what I'm doing on the moon. If I'm doing some work, some spell work or anything like that, then I'll incorporate where I'm at and what I want and so on and so forth. Other than that, full moons, there's a couple of spots out in PA that I just want to be out there. during a full moon alone.
Mm-hmm.
Let me have it, man. You talk about all the stories of midnight rituals in the woods. There's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
Elias has a point because, in my personal opinion, mine's the ocean. There's nothing like a full moon over the at the beach. Ugh, some good juju. That is a good night to just do whatever.
Mm-hmm. You know, Maria, I don't know if you got to see the thing with Master Code that you and I started talking about before you got busy. He had a thing about astrology and empowerment in the life, and I'm like, wonder what he has to say about this. And his take on the whole solar system and astrology had nothing to do with this planet means this and this planet means that, and don't do this if this planet's sitting over here, in this man-made concept of what they think those art forms are. The solar system is a generator that steps down the energy from source into a flow and current that we can handle, just like a plug outlet between US and German. So if you got to step that energy down to make it palatable and manageable for us to use. And that's why, the energy circulates as it does. It's creating that energy to give us access to it. And I'm like, yes, I can get behind that way more.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And the whole, in my head, I see this pattern of stars and it means this. And so therefore that means I can't do this because this red dot's now sitting in the middle of it. Really? Now it won't work because I truly believe it. If I hadn't thought of that.
I don't see that as just, like, to me, that's not really applying astrology in any productive way. That's just like making it a belief system. I don't use it that way generally.
So is it any more of a belief system than, let me show you 78 cards
Yeah. I mean,
and what this card means?
well, right, but I mean, the idea with it's not it. I use to me, it's a tool. It's like rechecking the weather before you go somewhere. That's literally how I use it. It's not. I don't plot every step along the way. It just kind of gives me an idea what things are more conducive, what things I need to focus on more.
Well, and Joan, isn't it like when you first learn cards, like almost every person I've bumped shoulders with, the first thing they tell you is, "Oh, don't read the book that tells you what the cards mean. Just look at it and figure it out."
Yep.
Yeah.
It's your interpretation. It's no different than girl, listen, we are all meteorologists. And we don't have a degree in meteorology or whatever you want to call it, weather people. We are all a weather person. Walk outside and tell me what that weather's doing, right? It's no different than with tarot cards, with all those rocks that you have in your store or the rocks in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
Or the dicks.
I'll even tell people that the rocks are not a set system either.
Yeah.
Tylenol might work for me, but doesn't work for you. You need a leaf,
Or the different sounds that Hank makes out of his room. And I say that very loosely, whatever he's using to make sounds.
So Laura, let me see, I'm trying to keep my hand out of the camera because I'm using my iPad. Technically speaking, go back and look at all data breaches, satellite towers for mobile services going snafu, things like that. Most all have occurred during Mercury retrogrades. Are we sure on that? And how many have happened outside?
Somebody has an answer.
Oh my God! Here comes the suck up student in the back.
Get it, Joan. Get it.
Solar flares.
I would give more credit to solar flare before I would the planet. It's never
FYI.
moving backwards. That's one thing that's annoying.
It's a rock in the sky.
Yeah.
Melissa.
It's a ball of gas, actually.
Well, okay, fine, whatever. But it's part of all those planets. Okay, Bill Nye.
That's like actively throwing things out, where this planet's just spinning and going around. Its center of gravity is less than what the sun is. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go buy a house during Mercury retrograde just because that planet looks like it's moving backwards, because in reality, it's not moving backwards.
But it doesn't say it's. That's right. It's the point of view. So it's like driving in a car. When you're driving in my car and I pass Melissa on the highway, it looks like she's going backwards. So she's in retrograde.
It looks like you're going to get a ticket.
Who's in retrograde now?
Who's not getting pulled over?
Well, that's, I mean, obviously. But even like you said, don't buy a house in Mercury retrograde. But for some, it's, let me tell you, for Mercury retrograde, some people can find good deals during that time too. So
I think what a lot of
I know mine was, Laura, by the way. The answer to yours, mine was. But whatever.
Oh, now it's because if your divorce, go back and research the original wedding dates. Chances are it was during Mercury retro. If your wedding was during the retrograde? How about I'm divorced because he was a douchebag?
there it is.
Trying to say that sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
And with astrology too, like one of my first astrology teachers said, it's like Pinocchio. And when you're unconscious, you're just moving with the planets, but you always have choice. And just because a planet's doing anything, it doesn't mean that you couldn't go in exact opposition to whatever that is supposed to mean. Because we all have choice and can choose regardless of whatever influence there is. No different than, peer pressure going through school. But you don't let the planets peer pressure you into making a choice that you don't really want to make.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
but
exactly.
get to a particular point there when you're talking about, just look, those who are wandering around, they're living unconsciously and some are living consciously.
Ultimately, as much grief as I give you guys, it really doesn't bother me, the whole astrology thing. It's fun to debate. But honestly, like if you're just making, you're self-aware and you're working towards something and you're able to come across a bump in the road and go, okay, how do I get around it, over it, through it, and not let it ruin your life and then blame it on a planet? Good for you. Like that's what you should do.
No, see, well, like for me, what it is it's a good point. It's knowing yourself, and like I know I'm likely to misunderstand something if I'm hearing something that I want to hear, versus like I'm more likely to miss something. So I know that that's like a soft spot for me. So I won't do sign a contract during retrograde unless I have no other choice, because I have a tendency. I'm not as like with things like that. I'm not as thorough as you. I'm not anywhere near as thorough as you, like by default. Like it takes a lot more effort for me to really be on top of all that stuff. So it's just like a weak point for me. So it's like, okay, it's less conducive for me to do that right now.
If we picked you up and put you in a community and there were no calendars and you did not know if and when Mercury was ever going in retrograde, do you really think it would matter?
Matter to what extent? I wouldn't know. So when I do something and miss the details on it, I wouldn't know that it was during that. I mean, that would be.
But you would go back and follow up and get the details that you missed. You would follow up. You would continue on. You wouldn't be able to blame it on Mercury. You wouldn't be able to freak yourself out.
I don't use it to blame things. I use it to weather. Like it's like, okay, well, I know me, and I'm not going to do something where I'm likely to make a stupid mistake because I've done that before.
Well, I think a lot of those things, like they serve almost like as yield signs when you're driving. So you've got like stoplights that tell you can stop or go. You've got stop signs that you have to fucking stop. And then you've got yield signs that say, hey, slow down, maybe look behind you and then go. A lot of times, like I've always looked at the planetary alignment and some of the more nuanced astrology is it's giving someone an opportunity to go, hold up, take a breath. Did you think about that? Really?
Right.
Do as you will. But it reminds people to be mindful. It reminds people to take a moment and be introspective and think about why they're doing the things they're doing. And, are they really doing it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons? Like it gives people opportunities to pause and actually get a little bit more self-aware of what's going on, in my personal opinion.
The planets, their placement, and their actions all have influence. It's just a matter of, those who are capable of reading it, they get to read the environmental factors that are coming into play and walk around them or not.
What are you holding up there, Joan?
Mercury retrograde. It's Mercury
no, she's showing
retrograde.
2020.
Why wouldn't this be any different than me saying Mercury retrograde? Almost every time, I have a reading, and this card shows up, I get the look of terror on the person's face. Why is that a problem? You see Mercury retrograde, you see the Tower. I mean, it's got the same effect as this card. So, oh, where are we? The Death card, right?
Aw. Don't rag on my death card.
I mean, the Death card does mean other things,
have a
but
bias
people
for
see
the
that
Death card?
Tower card and then they freak out. So, I mean, the cards to me, Hank said it succinctly. When you've got these, they're tools. You have the choice to make. We're guiding you and showing you what's happening in your life if you continue on that path. I think astrology gives you those tools, the ability to make a choice. You don't have to go and do what the horoscope is doing or even suggesting. Same thing with the cards. You can come and sit in front of me. I'll tell you what I see, my interpretation, and then you can say, you know what, I'm out. Get that. I'm going to do something completely different. And then I'll go see another reader.
And get the same and they get the same cards. And then the readers later go, did you get that card? Yeah, I got that card too. Like,
Yep.
Until you get the reading that you want to hear.
Yes. Yes.
Or you get the same message 4 times.
I have to tell people that every now and then because I'll watch them kind of like, well, this is like, I asked it this way and I thought of it this way. I almost have to remind people every once in a while, like, the universe is only going to work so hard to give you gentle messages. Don't make it get to the point that it wants to get the rolling pin out and smack you on the head to make you pay attention. Don't let it get that far. Take the signs. If you're hearing this and you don't want to hear it, I'm sorry, it sucks, but maybe you're hearing it for a reason. Do something about that. But like,
Right.
yeah, because if you keep dogging for the same question, thinking you're going to get a different answer, I feel like in my mind that's like the super aggressive, like rolling pin mom in the kitchen. Like, you what? Like, okay, come here.
The future isn't written. If you want a different answer, go work your ass off. Do it.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. I find it interesting when that happens, when I get a validation like that with another reader that got more or less the same results, because what I do is, I mean, not fundamentally, but, because my process is so much different that to come and the way I write things isn't, it's not as direct in the details. But to come to the same conclusion as someone else that's doing with cards, it's like it's really interesting how often that happens. I can talk.
Good job, Jamie. Good job.
Maria, when you get people coming to you for healings, and you do, you can get some messages too. I know you and I have discussed it before, but when you have people that come to you and you're saying, okay, here I'm going to come to you now. In another month, I come to you. You're telling me the same exact things. How do you handle your clients when you're telling them over and over again? Obviously, they haven't done their homework.
Mhm.
How do you address that?
It's funny because one of my clients who have done that, and she has not done any homework. And I think like the 7th or 8th time she has come to me, I said, obviously, maybe you don't think that you are ready for it right now. So I said, take the time, think it over, and maybe you might want to go see someone else. I've also have suggested to someone that maybe this is beyond my approach and you need to go and see someone professionally in the psychiatric, because she was dealing with a lot of mental issues and it was way beyond my approach. So I've suggested that to them, that maybe they need to go see someone else, or maybe they need to go and see someone in the professional spectrum. Because after 8th or 7th time, I mean, and you're coming in with the same issues. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. What was I going to say? Yeah, I've had people that have come to me, like annually at certain events. Like there's certain regulars at specific events that come, and I've seen some people over time progress, which is really nice. And I don't usually remember much about drawings, but after a while, you kind of remember certain people and remember where they were at. And then I've had other people that have digressed, and it's really kind of interesting to see how it it changes according to them. I mean, I'm just showing them what's there, but it's just I find it very validating to see those kind of progressions and the people confirm them.
I mean,
Hank,
Hank,
what about
had
you?
to,
Yeah, I was gonna say, does Hank, you play a new tune for somebody, or do you play a repeat tune?
every time is different, and people ask me all the time, like, how often should I come back for a healing? And I tell them some people I see once a year or even further, and there's other people that have a lot of life events that might come once a week for a period of time, and then we start spacing them out. And I said, but if you really just enjoy the sessions, and I'm fine if you come for enjoying the session, but if we're not actually making progress, then I'm not doing you a service. And at that point, I would refer them also. That doesn't happen often, but it happens occasionally. And that's why I think people really appreciate the authenticity and transparency of a healer like that, that's willing to say, you know what we're doing isn't working. Maybe it's time we try something different with someone else.
Right, and that's one thing that we kind of hold, like the integrity in with the store. Like, none of the readers or healers associated is going to keep siphoning the money off of you and keep letting you come. Like, I and the practitioner or healer will, have a conversation like, so and so has been coming a lot and nothing's really going. It's kind of like a waste of money for them at this point. So, it's draining them financially, and that's not the main gig of the business. So, please don't ever take offense if we say like, hey, you should wait a few before you come back. And it's really because we're kind of looking out for you and trying to help you out and give you time to process and do some healing work. We're not going to keep letting you book half-hour readings and taking $50 every single time from you. That's just not what we're after.
Well, it's like exactly like Maria said. Like, sometimes you run into clients that you realize like the help that they need is not something you can provide at this time. They need another practitioner. This one might be medical. This one might be legal. And I've always been really impressed. Like, I love that word you used, Melissa. Like, integrity. Like, all of the people you have in the store, we would always put the client first. If somebody came to them and sat down and shared something with them that was, hard or difficult, like, I have every confidence that all of the readers would be like, well, okay, well, clearly outside of this card reading, maybe you need some different kind of help. Let's talk about what that could look like for you. I know I've had a couple readings where like I've had to ask my clients like, hey, do you feel safe at home? Great, we're gonna have that conversation now. Okay, cool. And like those are difficult conversations to have because you have to balance wanting to meet that client's need, but then also looking at the person. Like, oh man, you just need help.
Right. Well, and sometimes there's a need that's more present than what they even realize. And, even if you are, if you're a practitioner that you're just, you might classify yourself as just a reader. I mean, it's still healing in a way. So to be able to notice, something not quite right, and being able to ask like, how's it at home? Do you need help? Do we need to call somebody?
Yeah.
On a lighter side of that, I had a young lady call and she wasn't sure what kind of reading she needed. And I think you were maybe there that day. Ultimately, what I ended up telling her, I'm like, honey, you need to call the local community college, set up with a counselor, and discuss what your hobbies and interests are and figure out your career path. Like, you don't need to come in and see a reader. Like, you need to go talk to a college counselor.
Oh, you were the reader she needed.
Huh?
You were the reader she needed.
She's like, thank you. And I'm like, I'm not going to rope you in here for a 15 half-hour reading and take money from you when that's not what you need. Contact LCCC down the road or, Tri-C or whoever and just start thinking that out loud. That's why I'll say even in the store, if you're walking around as a customer, it's like, hey, by the way, just so you know, Joan's doing readings today, just let us know and I'll kind of walk away. I'm not going to be like, so how long do you want? And by the way, do you have cash? It's let us know if you want it. Hank is probably the softest sell, when he's in on Thursdays. Like, Hank comes to hang out. And
I see people too. Sometimes.
Well, you do, but I mean, honestly, I think all of you guys are pretty okay. Like, if nobody feels the need to have a reading, but
Well, and I also think that a lot of people tend to, when they want a reader and I'm the one there, they're looking for someone that's going to bring grandma through. And like I said it today to a group of people, I'm like, yeah, I'm a medium, but I don't like talking to dead people, so I don't really advertise that. But I do have that ability. But if someone's really looking for that, then there's better readers that would service that particular need than me.
Mhm.
I'm more about the healing. You need to talk to your higher self and see what's up.
You want to make noise.
And make noise. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, are your headphones sparkling, or is that me tripping?
No,
You're tripping.
I know,
It's
yeah,
the-
you're
it's the
definitely
green
tripping.
Got the
screen
green
behind.
screen on.
Yeah, it's a green screen.
Oh, okay.
The camera that I have, because my other one had an oopsie, doesn't pick up. The resolution's different or something, so it has this weird effect on my headphones.
It's
We
funny.
should have said it's you, JD. We
Yeah.
should have let you think.
Yeah, we should have.
JD, what are you talking about? Hank's not even in here in this discussion. You see Hank? Weird.
Oh, we could make Hank disappear. Oh no, that way. I'm back.
What happens when we just start pressing random buttons?
Right?
Oh,
Mercury
But
retrograde.
now I don't know. I have to fix it. I don't know how to fix it anymore.
Who let the bunch of Gen Xers in around the technology and the millennials? We're going to mess them all up.
I'll tell you, that is the one complaint I have always had about being a millennial. My generation, for some reason, has made me tech support for anything. Like everybody in my office comes to me and goes, "Here, can you do this? Can you set up? Why is my computer do this?" I'm like, "Y'all, I went to school for psychology. I don't know shit about your Wi-Fi, but sure, let's find out." Like I have talked to so many. Like I'll end up like setting up contracts and stuff at work with like the AT&T guy, and he'll like call like, "Yeah, let me talk to your tech department." It's like, you got her. What's up? What are we doing?
We're going to wing it.
You know,
Words,
if it's that good, just tell them. It's like, hey, reboot. If it don't work, call tech.
Just try unplugging it and plugging it back in.
How about just plugging it in?
I mean, tonight, like, hopefully you guys don't have to keep seeing my arm and hand too much because I'm using my iPad testing this. So when I'm in Florida doing Marianne's live, I wouldn't have to take the big MacBook. So this was the guinea pig of how to get it to work on the iPad because what we use doesn't work with Google Chrome on an iPad. You have to use Siri. So speaking of problem shooting and all the fun stuff.
Wouldn't it be cool if mediums actually could just, hey, hold on, let me Zoom that meeting. I'm going to bring Grandma over. Hold on a minute. Bring her on
The rotary, I always like the mental image of the rotary phone dialing in grandma and grandpa, you know, because you know that's what they had back then still.
Or like those phone lines that connected multiple houses and you could like pick up one of the earpieces and listen to what your neighbors were talking about on the other line.
Yeah, they
like
were
stuff like
party
that.
lights or
Yeah.
something like that.
Just to kind of see whose house they were listening to.
Some sort of Tim Burton Beetlejuice type character at the switchboard plugging in things, you know. JD wants to talk to grandma and Joan wants to talk to uncle.
Please hold.
Right.
Your call is very important to us.
Right.
Is it though?
That's what the afterlife is like in my head.
Too funny.
Right. Let's see if anybody else has any questions for us tonight because we're getting kind of close to the end here.
It's been a quiet group tonight.
I know.
Overall.
Yeah.
I blame the snow.
Hey, we tried. We just started trouble for no purpose whatsoever. We just
Right. Let's see here. Yeah. Pretty quiet. Make sure I didn't miss anybody's comments or questions. I'm glad, Kathy, your friends enjoyed their drawings. JD, hopefully you'll be back at the next fair.
That's the plan.
Get it off.
Elias, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you use dominoes in your readings as well?
no. I use Elder Futhark runes.
Okay.
I was running the tarot straight up and got some advice as I'm trying to work my way into the circuit and reputation, so on and so forth. And I got some solid advice, and that was like, try a spread that everybody else isn't using. I said, okay, I already got that. So I use the Kabbalistic Tree of Life as my primary spread. And he says, you have other talents. Try incorporating. I used to use runes strictly. Yeah, they were reserved for those occasions when I felt it necessary to do some spell work of some kind. That's what I reserved them for. But they've always been a communication tool as well. So I said, all right, and I started incorporating 3 rune pulls just to see what would happen. And I started getting all sorts of confirmations or clarifications of the primary reading. Or I've on 2 occasions on 3 rune pull, I've blindsided a client with something that it was outside of the main reading, but they recognized it immediately as something that needed their attention.
Nice.
I've just been using those ever since.
Hey, I wonder if you could do a type of reading where you set up so many forks in front of a client, and depending on what fork they would use, like the type of reading that they would kind of get.
Actually, I do that kind of with that big Mesa spread that I have out there. I'll have a client look and maybe pick 2 or 3 items, and I'll incorporate that into the reading. And they'll pick things that there's no way they would even know are related at all. Like I had a thing of rum, and then there was like this little of this Shango's cloth, actually. And so they picked the cloth and they picked the rum, and they weren't next to each other. And so it's like really interesting just to see like what they'll pick, and it has correlations as to the medicine that they need or what they need to work on in the healing.
There we go. Call it shaman, pick your own reading.
Yeah.
Kinda
Or
like
you
a
did the
big
same thing with the
stone.
chumpy stones or anything like that too.
Yeah, Marie and I were talking about the chumpy stones the other day. Neither one of us use them much. I'm like,
Are those
"Okay."
those little stones that you had, Hank, that you said that someone gave you to before you knew what to do with them?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
And they're actually used for a thing called the Champiawe, which is weaving belts of energy between different energy centers. But it's fun. Good stuff.
So April is asking, what is everyone's favorite tarot or oracle cards?
I love the death card. 1, because it is Scorpio's card, and I'm a Scorpio. But also because death is it is such a transfiguration card. It is a card that doesn't necessarily mean just like death, something's dying and ending. It's an opportunity. It's a possibility. Like absolutely, a door's closing, but one's about to open, and you better like get that one shut tight and wrap that shit up, because what's about to come next is going to be worth it. Like that synthesis and that transformation that you're able to accomplish and achieve in your life for me has always been just extremely exciting, and that one's always resonated with me the most.
Hey JD, what's your favorite deck? There is a right and wrong answer.
Well, mine, of course.
If you would have said any deck other than your own.
As far as usage wise, I don't even remember the name of it because I lost the box. I have one of the dragon tarot, I think it is.
The purple box one?
I have that deck.
I got it used, so I don't know. I think it's the dragon tarot though. And obviously it's a tarot, so it's the same card. That deck always seemed to work for me. My favorite deck, just for personal, like, because I like it, is the Brian Froud Fairy Oracle. I don't really have a favorite card though.
Maria, do you actually use any cards ever, even if it's just at home for yourself?
It's mostly what I use personally is the Oracle card, but I don't really play with them. I just talk directly to Spirit. That's all I do.
Show off.
I'm not going to use any tools. I just say, hey, what's up? What's going
So
on?
who needs a switchboard when you've got a direct connection?
Right.
Yeah, she doesn't need a key to start her car.
Maria walks in and knocks on the door. She doesn't pick up the phone. Joan, what's your favorite card and or deck?
Well, decks, all of them. Okay. There are there's probably not a deck that I have to use a lot of restraint every time I go into the store. I hate to admit this, but I'm far enough away in the pictures across the screen that, hey, Melissa, I can't watch your Thursday shows because you're showing off too many decks.
Yes.
I can't.
My shopping list grows every time.
Yes.
You're
But I
welcome.
do, right? So recently there is an Oracle deck, and I've been playing around with this. I have, and I know Mom's listening because she's already texted me, but it doesn't matter because I'm a grown adult. I have about 50 or 60 decks, which is nothing compared to like Don,
Yeah.
or anybody else. I heard he's got 400 decks.
Yes.
Wow.
And his wife has her own set separate from that count.
And
They
they
have a
don't
separate-
mix. They
Nope.
don't mix.
And they have a separate bedroom just for all their collection.
Because then they'll make baby
Reader
decks.
goals right there. That's reader goals.
Reader goals, exactly. But as for
all of decks.
favorite card, I don't know. I do have one card that I actually call the Wonder Woman card, and that's the Strength card. I think that's my go-to card. That if I see it, I kind of get excited for it because it is something that reminds me that although it's hard work and we have to be firm, and there's a way to be compassionate while we're being firm, and it's kind of how I handle things. You have to be that force, but you also have to be loving when you're presenting that message, and that's kind of how I read. So here it is, and then it'll be okay, and we'll get you through it. So there's that.
I would say the strength card. Yeah, I would say the strength card too.
Copycat.
JD, if you're gonna copy someone's homework, you have to change it just enough so it doesn't look the same. Come on.
Right.
I kind of forgot about like individual cards.
If you're copying off the internet, you have to make 2 distinct changes, and then you can call it your own.
That's what I get for agreeing with Joan for once.
Yeah, for once.
Copycat. All right, Elias, what's your favorite card or deck and/or?
Well, my primary. Oh, but rune set is easy. I know I work with. I have my Elder Futhark rune set, and it's the only set I've got and use primarily because it was gifted to me in the first place as blank tile, and several months of long walks of talking, teaching, learning, listening, and carving to create that set. Tarot is my primary deck is the Sacred Circle Tarot. I really love the imagery on it. I have multiple, though nowhere near as many as some of our compadres. Get decks that were gifted to me, and I am slowly working my way through and trying to develop an understanding communication with. So it's very difficult for me to pick a card because just they're so damn beautiful, and each deck has different cards that do things that nothing else will.
Well, what about your favorite rune then?
Huh?
What's your favorite rune?
The favorite, those things go in a circle. There's no favorites. The whole world is contained within the rune set.
Mm-hmm.
That's like asking what your favorite planet is.
Pluto.
Mercury.
Everybody has a planet.
JD.
Should I break the news here?
Hank, I know you have at least one deck.
Yep, I have
I'll
JD's.
verify one of these on this board.
Yeah, that is, well, in terms of divination tools, though, the two things that I have used in the past are runes and also the I Ching. And I don't know if they have an I Ching Oracle deck, but if I were to start practicing a deck, that would probably be what I would look at and see if there was like an I Ching version of it. So look at it for me. My favorite card is the double one of the cards in tarot, or is that a different set? So that would be, I think, one of the cards that has the biggest possibility of change, because the double card, I feel, represents, and I don't know anything about tarot, so I could be totally wrong, but the aspect of ourselves that we're not willing to look at, it becomes our double, our biggest set of anti-consciousness. And I think that would be the most important thing to come up in a spread in some ways, because it shows you where do you need to look at to see your darkest shadow that you're not willing to look at. And so I think that has the greatest potential to help someone kind of break out of unconsciousness.
Nice.
Oh, I'm sorry, JD. He didn't say his favorite deck was yours.
I said, well, that's the only one I actually own that I will use.
I want honest answers.
But I never, if I do use it, like occasionally if someone's like, and I guess I don't do readings that often, but sometimes people need to see you do something. And if I have one of those people and I'm actually doing a reading, I have JD's deck right there and I can bust it out and flip over some cards, not knowing what any of it means, and then I'll just do the reading anyway.
JD's deck is good for that. It lets you really interpret like what's going on because it's so.
Yeah, even if you look at the explanations, it's like half a line sentence. Like they're not that, or maybe they're longer. I don't remember. I think it was like one piece of paper that had the most minimal directions, so it left it open up without sticking with the point of view about what the card meant.
Made it easy to throw away the book because it was just a paper. Throw it in the
Well, I still have it. I hear those decks are in short supply these days, so hopefully
They're sold out.
They're sold out. Oh,
when's the reprint?
Oh, darn. I was going to buy one.
Nice.
Very funny, John.
Melissa, do you have a favorite card?
Joan has. None of them are mine.
Not necessarily a favorite card. The deck that I use a lot is the Enchanted Map. It's an Oracle deck. Really pretty. I wanted to say like the Shadowland Tarot because it's very Tim Burton-esque and it's got bats on the back, and I love bats, but this is the deck that I always kind of go back to, and the artwork's really pretty on it. So yeah, that's the one I go back to, and then I can make the joke to say that my favorite rune is my kid sitting in the other room.
Oh,
His name is Rune.
no.
That's everybody's favorite rune.
Aw.
Right? He is the rune of not doing homework. So.
I think that's my kid's favorite rune too. Then,
Right.
If he ever got in a reading, he'd have to call himself the Rune.
The boy. He actually likes the idea that we came up in doing the whole the boy. So when I make name badges, like he really wants.
That's right, the boy.
Yeah. I don't know why this is.
Oh, I love that.
He's the boy. So if you're ever in the store and you see this slightly taller than me, hair all in the face and headphones, that's the boy.
That's because it's like the Mandalorian, the child. We know, if you don't know who the child is, then let me just say Baby Yoda. The boy is Rune. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the boy. He's my favorite rune. But well, it's already after 9 o'clock, guys.
yeah,
That went by kind of quick.
yeah, that one little question threw us over. That was good. Well timed.
Yeah. All right.
Only takes one good question to change the entire tone.
Right. And April had said that everybody was just enjoying our conversation and our banter. So that's all good.
Well,
It's
I'm
nice
glad
that all
someone's
your readers
entertained.
get along, you know?
We do. Everybody gets along. Everybody has fun. Willing to not only compliment and help one another when it comes to fairs and readings and helping the client. So I think that's why, everybody enjoys coming. And we keep doing our shenanigans like we do.
So I shouldn't tell you that Hank, JD, and me were totally talking shit about the rest of you over on the other side, right?
You promised not to say anything.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
Well, that was expected. When this stuff was
In my
another
world,
room.
that's
They're like,
expected.
good, we got rid of them damn troublemakers over there.
Sorry, I had a cat issue. I almost had a plant issue, but it was a cat.
You guys were banished.
You missed us.
Other side of the wall.
It was the psychic fair equivalent of the kids' table.
For you and Tank, yeah. When it was Hank and Greg last.
Does that make me the babysitter? Why did I have to go?
Someone's got
you
it.
had the little penis rocks to throw at them at their head if they were misbehaving.
That's still one of my favorite like witchy memes. It's like, which stone is good for like banishing people? Any of them if you throw them hard enough.
Yeah.
Well,
Otherwise,
when
like Joan is usually the babysitter between Don and Greg.
Oh,
when
yeah,
the-
yeah, I see.
or he sits between the two to- Yeah.
No worries. When Melissa gets a bigger store, not if, when Melissa gets a bigger store, we'll all have our own little room.
No, that'd be no.
That will all
fun.
lock from the outside.
Oh my gosh.
Like, you're done. You're done. Just go in there. Knock it off.
Go sit down. Go shuffle and sit down. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll do this again, February, whatever that last Sunday in February is. That'll be the next fair as well. I think all of you are back next month, right? Pretty sure. Or
Yes.
yeah,
Looking forward to it.
not February yet. And
Like 3 hours out of February.
right, only 3. Oh my God, it's already February. Holy cow.
One of the topics I would love to eventually cover, if supposedly 2020 was the year of the tower, what is 2021?
We'll
Eventually, we
revisit
can
that.
get around to that.
Let's come back to that next month.
Let's just make a note and readdress.
Something to think about. Chew on.
I like it. It'll be a good opening while people think of other questions to ask and make you guys work, earn your keep. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Catch us next month at 8 o'clock after the psychic fair. Feel free to join us, even if you can't make it into the fair. That's all right. But thank you again, and good night.
Bye.
Night.
I
Bye.
use my laptop and it's on my iPad. I need to go to bed.